No doubt the project has been absolutely amazing, as Stephen said, from really humble beginnings to getting today. I visited the Bob Tyler exhibition not that long ago, and it was amazing to see what the volunteers and everyone else here took part, what they achieved.
That's Philip Denning, and I'm on the East of England committee of the Heritage Lottery Fund, but I thought I'd just explain what the Heritage Lottery Fund is, because it's a bit confusing. When we set up the National Lottery, I can't remember what it was, 25 years ago or so, it was part of the condition was that some of the money would go to what are called good causes, and that includes sport, art, heritage, charities. And in fact, it made a huge difference, for example, to our performance in the last Olympics, where a lot of the Olympic athletes got money from the lottery. Now, the heritage bit is the bit that's helped fund this project. It's easy to think of heritage in quite narrow terms, but actually the Heritage Lottery Fund funds all sorts of things. It involves funds wildlife and nature reserves, steam engines, canals, projects like this. In fact, what's special about this is that for the first time ever, the lottery had special money set aside for First World War for a particular topic. Normally, it's general, but in this case, it was felt very important that the First World War was commemorated. And the emphasis was very much on young people. I think that's what it was really, really important element of it, so that today's generation understand what an extraordinary event it was in terms of Europe as a whole. It absolutely changed things, particularly those of you who've been looking at what happened at the last stages and the immediate period afterwards. It was absolutely transforming. It's very easy to forget that. When I was at school, the most recent thing I learned was Tudors and Stuarts. So First World War was modern, you learn about that. But it's actually very important. I think people today really do understand quite what an impact it had on the lives of everybody, every community, everywhere. Now, as I say, we've been funding First World War projects throughout the UK, so Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and so on. And we've seen schools in all sorts of places doing things. And it would be invidious of me to make comparisons, but I have to say this is one of the very best. And the fact that you end up here in Parliament is, I think, an acknowledgement of just how significant this particular project has been and how well it's been run and how well everybody's been involved. So an enormous thank you to everybody, because really it has been an extraordinary effort and an extraordinary achievement. The people, of course, we must thank are the people who actually buy lottery tickets. It is the National Lottery, not one of these other postcode lotteries, things like that. Because actually, though I'm sure when they buy their ticket, their first priority is supporting the Basildon Heritage Group. I'm sure that's what they really think of first and foremost. They might just win the prize. But without them, we wouldn't have been able to fund this. And of course, we hope to be able to fund all sorts of other projects in the future. So thank you to them, as well as a thank you to all of you. And then a final note, which has nothing to do with this project at all, but just for the young people to realise why this is a very important position here. You've come through the building, you probably can't work out where it is, but this is the way that people come through to what are called the committee rooms, where you see here. And the committee rooms are where the real work of Parliament happens. You may have seen pictures of MPs shouting at each other across the chamber. That's not where the real work happens. The real work happens in rooms all the way along this corridor, where all the detailed analysis of government laws happens, or all sorts of reports on issues like prison reform and education. So this is the working part of Parliament. So anyone coming through here will be coming and seeing your exhibition. So this is a really important place. It's not just some funny old bit of Parliament. It is absolutely a key place. So again, that's a credit to you. So well done, everybody, and congratulations to everybody involved. Thank you.
Inviting me, who I'm really great. I run the charity Remembered There But Not There. And I'd just like to say, having walked around this exhibition, spoken to a number of the cadet units, and hopefully we'll speak to you afterwards, just how impressed and honoured I am to have seen that the Tommy has featured in many of the exhibitions and installations that you've put on throughout the war as a way to do that, to educate all generations, not only about the futility of war, but also about sacrifice and the after effects of war, and to heal those servicemen and women who have suffered physically and mentally from their service today. And just by purchasing a 6-foot Tommy and the small Tommies and the silhouettes, you have also contributed to those servicemen and women who need our help today. So I hope that there are further things that we can do together as we move on to the 75th anniversary of D-Day, for example. But thank you again from behalf of There But Not There to include us in the way that you commemorate. You have really hit and epitomised what our charity was trying to achieve with commemorating the Educate, and I'm delighted to be and honoured to be in the House of Parliament today seeing what you've done. Thank you.
Really? No 4 hours, no. And even Frenchy speaking English is not a long time. Okay. Dear friends, dear Stephen, dear Paul, and dear Steve, on behalf of the committee of the Forget Never project, you have invited Mr. Jean-François Copé, Mayor of Meaux, at the opening of this exhibition here in the UK Parliament. He thanks you warmly for this invitation, and he sincerely regrets not to be present today with us in London. So he made me responsible to represent him. As Deputy Mayor, I do represent the community of the town. The Forget Never project was launched in 2014 to mark the centenary of the First World War. This day, today, is the conclusion of these commemorations. The communities in Meaux, Heiligenhaus and Basildon work together for this event. This exhibition is in recognition of this and to honor all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Historic building on what I think is quite a historic occasion. 4 years ago, Bob and I sat down to try and come up with a way to commemorate the events of the start of the First World War. And we started out in quite a small way. We thought perhaps we'll try and get school students involved in some form of arts and poetry and essay and story writing projects. And from that, it grew exponentially. And so over the 4 years, from those relatively humble beginnings, we have spawned 2 unique and original theatrical productions, one of which has been performed in our other 2 twin towns. The second part of that, which was performed on the night before Remembrance Sunday, I thought was an absolutely stunning conclusion to the project. We've organised numerous battlefield trips, we've taken groups out of the country to museums and exhibits. We ourselves have held a number of exhibitions, most recently at Wat Tyler, where I think well over 1,000 people attended over the 2 days of the event. And I think the best thing that's come out of this is the way that it has brought both our community in Basildon together to work on this, but also it's brought us together with our 2 twin towns of Meaux, Welcome and Heineken House. And of course we have created new friends now as well in Belgium, which I think is absolutely wonderful. I hope that at some point perhaps that relationship will become more formalised. It has literally touched, this project, touched the lives of thousands of people across both the UK and France, Germany and Belgium. And many of whom have learnt about the events 100 years ago, learned things that they never otherwise would have known. And many of those who have been touched by this project have then committed to become peace ambassadors and talk about the events of 100 years ago to make sure that we do not make the same mistakes as we did in the past. Now, all this didn't happen on its own. It took a huge team eventually to get it to this stage where we are exhibited in the historic Houses of Parliament. So I do have a few thank yous to say. First to the Lottery Heritage Fund. Without whose support we would not have been able to achieve a fraction of what we have been able to do. And I do hope that and they have been very supportive, both financially but also coming along to our events. And I hope from what they have seen, they consider this to be money well spent and a community enriched by their contribution. So thank you very much for that. But of course, there was a team locally led by Basildon Heritage. I know there was a number of them here today who gave us the formal structure we needed to be able to create the events that we did. And of course, that was all tied together by Bob. And Bob is a bit of an unsung hero. He doesn't like praise, he doesn't like attention. But the reality is that without Bob's efforts, without his input, without his commitment to this, along with everyone else, I get that, but Bob has been a driving force in my office and I think across the whole project. And I think most people would accept that without him, it perhaps wouldn't have been quite possible. So Bob, on behalf of us all, a huge thank you to you for your energy and commitment. But I also want to say a few welcomes. Welcome to my colleague, Mark Francois. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Also to the There But Not There team who created the Tommies, which you may certainly seen one here, you'll have seen it around the borough in Basildon, but it's really actually quite nice to come to work every day and see one on Westminster Station, which is a really good reminder of the idea of there but not there. Of course, I want to welcome Laurent Guillaume from Mo. Welcome, our Deputy Mayor. We're going to hear from him shortly. We're delighted that you were able to make the journey over here. And of course, we have our own Deputy Mayor as well. So thank you for joining us, together with the Managing Director from Basildon. Is that still looks like Managing Director? Chief Executive. Yeah. From Basildon Council. So welcome to you as well. And I think we are supposed to be being joined by Richard Dunning, who is the owner of the Lochnagar Crater. So welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, welcome to the I think the three schools are represented here today. One of the most warming things of the project has been the way certain schools have really embraced it, embedded it into their curriculum, and used the project as a learning tool. I want to thank the schools for their commitment to this and getting involved, and I hope you found it a rewarding experience. And I think it really does bring meaning to the old adage, the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. And hopefully you've all got something out of this as well. To the Army Cadets, who have been hugely supportive of the project, and of course the whole Never Forget team. As I said, I think this has been a truly inspirational project over the 4 years. It's left its mark on the various towns, and whether it's been the glass memorials that we've shared across our three towns, which list all those who fell during the First World War. We've planted peace trees, we've held a peace conference, there's a beacon now at Wat Tyler. But I think above the actual physical mark this has left, it is the mark that it will have left in people's minds and hearts that is the most important. To have been involved in this, to have seen some of the events up close by visiting various places, I hope will stay with you for very many years to come. It will certainly stay with me. I think it has been a wonderful project from its humble beginnings to its finale. It's given real purpose to our commemorations, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being involved, for doing that, and showing that Basildon really can make a huge contribution to national significant events such as the commemoration of the First World War. We now look forward to what might come next, but for now, thank you for joining us. Enjoy today.